podcasts over at wildgamesproductions.com and d20radio.com.
Welcome to the All Initiative Podcast, the only Advanced Dungeons & Dragons First Edition podcast with superior
Roll for Initiative Podcast, volume number 3, in special insert number 5. DM Vincent sitting alongside DM Nick.
Hello, everybody.
And today we have a special guest on, Mr. Tim Kask. How you doing, Tim?
I'm doing fine, thanks.
Glad to have you here. This week we're going to be talking a little bit about almost everything about Tim. So it's going to be Tim all the time, all the way.
Oh, let's hope not.
Yes. What's your favorite color?
Yes.
Maroon.
Oh, okay.
Followed closely by dark green.
Ah, I see. Interesting. Well, let's start off a little bit about the Eldritch Enterprises. How did that start?
Well, I was out of gaming for 20-some years, and then Frank and I got together, and it was kind of when we first got together, I've been back like 06, and it'd be, wouldn't it be cool, get some of us old farts that sit around and do, and let's put together, kind of like, we were kind of like Mickey Rooney and Shirley Temple. Hey, let's put on a show. Judy Garland, let's put on a show. Let's put on a company. And so it evolved from wouldn't it be cool to, well, let's see if we can't do it. And I was getting ready to retire, and it just sort of fell into place. Then Jim got so terribly sick, and that was a real blow to the company because he got so very, very ill and so burdened down with medical bills and whatever. Here and I had almost gotten him paid off on his first bout, and then he had the worst bout, and he's 5 times farther in the hole.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I give a shout out to the people at Penny Arcade because they really helped me. I'd set up a Bail Out the Warden fund trying to raise money to help pay Jim's bills. And when they gave me a post on there, we really rocked, raised a lot of money. And I'm really, really grateful to those guys for helping me help Jim.
Well, that's awesome. I appreciate that, too. So I'm looking on your website here for the Enterprises here. What's the product that you're currently working on that we can look forward to, or...
Well, I have a brand new one out. My newest is Curse of the Weaver Queen. It just came out last week.
Curse of the Weaver.
We're going to actually have a few hard copies at TotalCon in 2 weeks. Just a few. We could only get a few printed up and shipped in time, but we're actually going to have a few of that. Then
It's something.
I'm working on. Well, let's see. If you're familiar with our product line, we have Dark Outpost, and we have Dark something else, and there's a third one in the arc. They're sci-fi, which is why I'm a little vague on the titles. But I'm collaborating with Jim Ward. After it had gone into print, I found out that they'd named the planet after me. One of our old TSR jokes. We used to do that. We used to name artifacts after ourselves and our characters.
Sure.
Yeah.
Swarmage and such.
Well, so here, and so here it is, Planet Kask, and so on the collaboration with Jim, I'm gonna do the planet side. It's my planet, and it has to be sci-fi. But then I'm thinking, Star Wars is sci-fi, and there are adepts that manipulate power. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I'm collaborating with him on that. I'm starting initial plotting for a follow-up to the Snake Riders of the Arredondo, Return to the Isle of Arredondo, and then a third one will complete that arc under the Isle of Arredondo. So I'm going to do an underwater adventure because
that'll be good.
Well, my Curse of the Weaver Queen that just came out, Curse of the Weaver. I can't remember. We had to change the title because it looked like it was too close to something that I'd never read. But I've maintained my relative virginity RPG wise. All the years I was out, I didn't even look at RPGs. I still board gamed with some of my friends, but I never looked at RPGs.
No kidding.
Wow.
Wow. He's just stayed away from it that much.
Yeah, well, when I went out, I was not enamored of the gaming industry at the time because of the sequence of events that happened between 80 and 83. Between being forced out at TSR and then having to fold up my publishing company due to Reaganomics. I had to fold up a company that was making money on paper every month. Every issue I made money with adventure gaming, but I couldn't collect it.
Wow.
That period of time saw a huge shakeout of small businesses, and a disproportionate share happened to be mom and pop hobby shops.
Yeah.
They disappeared in the early and mid 80s. They were gone. And unfortunately, it was a good chunk of my distribution network. So anyway, where was I? I got off site somewhere.
No, you're fine. You were telling us about the project you were working on.
Oh, right. Okay. So and then I'm gonna do that, and then I've got one that I'm gonna be playtesting at TotalCon that I've been working on a while, called the Castle of Glass.
Oh, cool.
And it has really strange things from another plane, and a new elder race I invented. Whenever I write on my world, I've never done this until recently, but I just make up stuff all the time. So every adventure I write, I'm writing what my partner Chris calls source material, and I just I don't know. I thought it was background fluff. That's what I called 30 years ago. Filler, just filling it. But it's actually that's actually part of the thing that I like doing the best is writing in background. So that's well. And then Frank and I got a couple of collaborations that are on the back burner. The way the company works is we all peer review. We all read each other's first time we think we're done, and we pick it apart, and we send them all back, and then except for my stuff, I usually get I edit. I'm an editor for the other three guys, more for some than others, but that are the way we are set up. We peer review, then it comes to me for editing, then it goes back, then it gets what we call our nitpick afterwards. And so I'm involved with most of what's going on creatively, but Chris Clark, our fourth partner from Inner City Games, is our technical and logistical genius type guy who we rely on for getting this hard copies printed and getting out there and knowing how to do these. We had a terrible learning curve with PDFs. The allowance that we have to leave for sloppiness is appalling.
Oh,
I say this because of coming from the hot wax and X-Acto knife and burnishing stone period of magazine making, where we tried to get everything within a 64th of an inch manually and did. What we have to allow for the sloppiness of print-on-demand fulfillment presses, whoever, it's just appalling.
Really?
They can be so sloppy and off, and we have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've heard that with print-on-demand.
It was a real eye-opener, because I came from a very precise layout criteria to a very loosey-goosey, all the breaks go to the printer.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot from people who are trying to get product. They'll do a PDF, but they'll also do print on demand through whoever it is out there. And I guess depending on who you go through, it's really hit or miss on the quality that you're going to get.
Well, and see, we have several. Our stuff is available on several sites, and please don't ask me which other ones these sites drive through. But the problem is, Well, if there's 4 print-on-demand places that we're at right now, and I'm not sure if it's 4, but we'll say there is.
Okay.
3 of them can be Cracker Jack, but we have to allow for the 4th one.
Right. Okay.
We have to. We can't rely that it won't happen. And that was our learning curve. That's why some of our early stuff came out rather slowly and a little late. Not because it was done late. It's because we were just beating our head on the wall, trying to figure out, you can't just create a PDF with Adobe and then drop it into print on demand. It doesn't work that way.
It doesn't?
Wow.
No, I'm kidding.
No. Not if you want it clean.
No, I
Do
know.
everything in InDesign.
Yeah.
Now, that's in the Adobe suite,
Yeah.
but Frank does all the layouts in InDesign.
Yeah.
Chris used to use PageMaker. He's learning InDesign. I'm beginning to learn.
PageMaker's still out there. I'll be doggone.
Yeah.
Well, it is on old computers.
I understand where you're coming from, being a person that uses InDesign and wrote 2 modules to put on Lulu Press and Drive Through RPG. It is a pain. It's not easy.
No, it is not. You have to, and again, you're not allowed to make any sloppy mistakes,
No.
and all the mistakes are allowed to the printer, and that's just the way it is.
It's the
Yeah.
nature of the beast now. I guess
Yep.
that's a trade-off that, now we have things like print on demand where, your cost, your overhead is like virtually nil, but you get this other thing you got to deal with. So,
Well, and see, we've done that just the opposite with Gygax Magazine, which
Right.
we're going to talk about later.
Yeah.
So back to Eldritch. Frank's got 4 out, I believe. Jim's got 4 done. I think he's got 3 out and a 4th one coming, including a real screwball one that's going to show Jim's weird and whacked out sense of humor.
oh, good.
I really enjoyed collaborating with him on it. It's called the Squirrel Tower.
Oh, gosh. I can only imagine.
No, I don't think you can, because I thought I knew what he was doing too until I got it, and I worked with him quite a bit on it, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's something a little different than what we've been doing. It's certainly different than what I do. Mine all seem to arc together. They all take place on my world. Frank's take place on his world. Chris, I don't know that Chris has used a world. I helped with Strange Allies, which is the follow-up to Forest of Deceit, but I don't recall that it was set on a particular world. I don't think Chris's have to be on a world. He has a great knack for just writing these neat, compact little things you can just kind of parachute into any campaign. He's very good at that.
So
I'm not yet. I'm having to figure out how to do that.
So I think the number one question for Eldritch Enterprises I always see is, how does someone get involved with helping you or submitting something to you, Tim? Or are you taking things, for example?
Yeah. Right now, I know of 3 or 4 people right now that I would love to see a manuscript from. However, we are still, until we have about 16 to 20 of our own products out there, we simply can't divert our time right now to looking at other stuffs. It's not to say we might not be by the end of the summer.
Right.
It's just we've had some teething pains. We've learned that we've all had to relearn how to use new software, old software. Again, I'm humbled by what we didn't know when we thought we had our stuff pretty well together. And I don't think we weren't filled with hubris, but we kind of thought we had an angle. But this print on demand caught three of us off guard, and Chris, who had a little experience with it, as everybody started changing. All of a sudden, print on demand you can't do in PageMaker.
No.
It won't take them anymore. Well, that happened to us halfway through our first cycle of releases, and Chris is still working in PageMaker.
Oh.
Okay, we hadn't all traded over yet because, some of us, we had to buy the suites, and we waited until we got a super, super deal, and we bought suites for me and for Frank, and I think we got part of a suite for Jim. We didn't give him the things we knew he wasn't going to be using.
Right.
And then I think we finally got the rest of the suite for Chris. But, that's heavy money.
Yeah, the Adobe InDesign is not cheap. You're right.
And when the four of us got to get a new program nowadays, it looks like we're looking at $1,000 on the minimum because we have to buy, commercial versions so that we can use them to sell stuff with. And I don't even pretend to understand the ins and outs of that. That's Chris. He knows that stuff because he's been doing it for 20 years.
Yep, to do it legally, that's how you have to do it.
Yeah. So anyway, that's where Frank's got stuff he's working on right now. He may have the most that have actually hit the page there.
Yeah, I'm looking at the.
Yeah, I have the least. I only have 2.
Frank's,
Chris now has 2. But that'll change because I'll have a couple 3 coming out between now and Gen Con probably. And again, it's just we're learning where our choke points are and trying to better distribute what each of us does to streamline the process. And we've got 4 individual egos that all feel good at what we do.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
I missed the chance of getting the Snake Riders last year at North Texas RPG Con when you were there. And I figured I'll just pick it up this time when I go. So you'll have more, hopefully.
Actually, that's funny. That one that was at Texas is the one we call our Field and Stream cover because that was completely photoshopped. And because we had to have a cover and the art was the guy that we had commissioned to do the art. I don't know what happened to him. Oh. Anyway, the art wasn't coming, and so Chris whacked together a cover, and it was good. It was acceptable. And it wasn't what we would have liked, but it was acceptable. I wasn't ashamed of it or anything. Well, it's now a collector's item.
Yeah, dang.
Jim Wampler found this really good young lady artist in Sweden, and she did that new cover with the gold binding around the edge and everything, and she did the cover on my Curse of the Weaver also.
I was wondering why it looked different.
She did some interior art in Curse of the Weaver.
Oh, okay. I was sitting there going, wait, I don't remember that cover for the book.
No. So now I have about 35 of those Sports Afield or Field and Stream.
Hey, Vince, you play your cards, right?
Yeah.
I have about 35 of them in my garage right now. So we know those are collector's items.
Well,
so,
yeah.
I may have some goodies in my bag at Texas. I usually do.
Okay, I'll have to raid your bag at Texas then.
Well, I just had to turn in an inventory for tax purposes, so they know how many are there again.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not an open pantry, but if you want, well, we'll get you one. That's not a problem. I can tell you what, if you sit down and read it and then talk about it, I'll send you a review copy on a PDF.
Oh, certainly, definitely. We'll do a review for you, definitely.
All right, and I'm looking for honest reviewers.
Oh,
that
yeah.
doesn't mean people that kiss my butt and write good stuff. That means the people that can give an honest appraisal of what we do.
Good critiques, good constructive criticism.
Exactly. And it seems to me, especially when I look online, that the so-called reviewers, a great many of them, talk more about what they thought it should have been rather than what it is.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So talk about what it is. And if you bomb mine or one of somebody else's and you have well thought out reasons why you simply didn't like it, doesn't mean I'm not going to send you the next new one. If you're an honest reviewer, I know that we do some good stuff. Maybe not everyone is going to hit every reviewer's fancy, but I know that we're going to do good. We are doing good stuff. I mean, without swelling with hubris, we're 4 pretty talented guys. Mm-hmm. So I know that we're capable of doing good stuff. I read it all. I mean, Frank does incredibly crunchy AD&D stuff. Nobody does sci-fi better than Jim. Chris is just all over the place, an enormously talented person. Knows his sci-fi down to the valence count of the atoms in the ray gun. And maybe
That's
more,
pretty good.
maybe even more than Jim in that regard, and also has a marvelous light touch with fantasy and can do some incredible tongue-in-cheek stuff. I'm pretty much, I started to talk earlier about being a virgin. I don't read anybody else's games. The only game systems I've looked at in the last 8 years are Mouse Guard, Burning Wheel. I think that's it.
Oh, I thought you were going.
All right, and I don't look at other guys' modules because I was trained in the steal every good idea you find and blend it into your own soup school of RPGs. We didn't have modules, and we read books and stole ideas. We watched movies and stole ideas. Half the psionic combat comes from Doctor Strange comic books that Gary and I both loved.
Oh, nice.
I didn't know that angle on that. That's interesting.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
I created the psionic system. I'll take the lumps for that, too.
I was going to say, I think you have a lot of people want to have an answer for that. I don't know.
Well, that's fine. There are some that like it, too, so It is what it is.
Oh.
I was not nearly as skilled a designer then as I think I am now. Would I go back and do it? No. Do I use it? Vaguely, once in a while.
And that's an interesting point, Tim, I think you make is, then, because being a history guy and everything, a lot of people forget, when they look back on stuff like, original brown box D&D or...
That's why I cut my teeth.
Yeah, and Holmes Edition or, first edition AD&D as it's known now, people
those are all cookers.
Yeah, and people forget, they say, well, they were doing this wrong, that, and this wrong.
Boy.
They were plowing new ground here. This was new then.
Let me give you a good metaphor for that.
People forget they forget the historical context.
Well, several years ago, when the second Hobbit movie came out, I was sitting at in the front row of my local cinema, my feet propped up on the railing where I always sit. And it's not front, but it's front. We have stadium seating in our theaters, so
right.
It's the front of the good section. And about halfway through the movie, it struck me that movie, I wouldn't even be enjoying that movie up on the screen, more than likely, if it hadn't been for the silly crap that we were doing back in 74 and 75 and 76. Mm-hmm. And I probably published it on Dragon's Foot or somewhere. I wrote a letter to J.K. Rowling congratulating her. I think the woman's a genius. She tailored her writing to her market. But who was paying for the books?
Right.
People that thought D&D was okay, fantasy's okay. They realized it was all right. We cut down the trees, pulled out the stumps, and planted that first little field. Out of it, Peter Jackson's movies grew.
Yeah,
right.
J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter grew, and all the stuff in between.
Yep.
And that's a really nice feeling.
Yeah, it's just amazing because I'll hear from people when they're not familiar with the older editions, and a lot of them will look back and it's like, well, why were they doing it this way? It's like, well, remember this was uncharted territory, literally. I mean, like when you're talking about the psionics thing, it's like some people don't like it, some people do. It's like, who cares? It's the important thing is this was new at the time, and
what they need to do is they need to go back and read the forewords and the prefaces that Gary and I wrote.
Exactly.
Every book says these are not hard and fast rules; these are guidelines.
Right.
Some people forget to read that part.
Some people forget that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were not rules. They were guidelines.
And that's one of the things that we do stress on the show generally is like it's more times than another, it's rulings, not rules. And if you're consistent on your rulings and then everybody's cool with it, then what's the problem?
There is none. You're exactly right. There is none. Rulings, not rules. I've lived by that my entire gaming, and that's how I met Gary.
Right.
Yeah.
Playing chainmail at my college game club. Something came up. We made a ruling. I got a wild hair. I called director assistance long distance, got his number, and called him up on a Saturday evening when it was really, really cheap. On a Saturday evening when it was really, really cheap, we talked an hour and a half, and the rest is history. But it was and the first thing he did was go, well, all right, what did you do? He didn't tell me what I should have done. He asked me, what did you do? how did you do it? And that's the way Gary always answered those questions. How did you do it? And then you had to learn to interpret his response. Because if he said, well, I might have done it, well, then you knew, man, well, maybe it wasn't such a good idea, whatever you came up with. But if he said something like, well, yeah, that's a good way to do it, okay, you made a good rule. You made a good call. Because, I admit, when I first met him, he was till I met him in person, he was a guy that wrote games. And I've been an avid gamer since it's either late 61 or early 62, sixth grade. And so I've been an avid gamer all that time, and here I am actually talking to a guy that did a game, did a bunch of them, actually. So
it's a good feeling.
Yeah, it was. But I didn't like go all fanboy all over him, because if I did, he'd never talk to me for an hour and a half.
Definitely.
We found out we liked all the same books, and we read the same historians, and it was just like we were like almost like brothers from different mothers. It was really odd.
Two peas in a pod.
We both were individuals. I don't think we came out of the same pod. That's the thing. Might have come off the same plant, but not out of the same pod.
All right, let's move forward a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about Gary Con. Were you involved with getting that started at all, or how'd that start?
Well, when Gary passed and they had the informal get-together after the funeral, I was not able to attend because a day or two before the funeral here in Cincinnati, we got walloped with a big snowstorm.
Oh.
And I was not going to drive up through a heavy snowstorm by myself. Now, I have a Jeep, but I still was not going to drive up in a heavy snowstorm by myself. I lived in Wisconsin enough to know that was stupid. So I missed that one. But then when it came time to put together a Gary Con, because I'd been going up for a couple of the Lake Geneva gaming conventions that preceded Gary Con in March. And when the family contacted me and said they were, going to, because the trolls basically did Lake Geneva Game Convention so they could come up and hang out with Gary and promote Gary's newest Castles Agag or, Castle, whatever he was, doing. That was just, it was a great business thing for them, and they had good time, and they spent time with one of their, top guys, and it was just a great time to go up. I went to a couple of them, had a great time. Well, the family said, we're going to keep doing this. And I've made a commitment to the family, and by the family, the Heidi and Elise and the third daughter. Oh, she's going to kill me. I'm having a block. And Luke and Ernie. I made a commitment that I would. Cindy.
Yeah.
Okay, Cindy.
There you go. You got it. There you go.
Uncock the gun, Cindy. Uncock it. I made a commitment to them, and I told them, quite frankly, that I would be honored to be a part of it, and I would attend as long as I'm physically able to attend. And I just turned 64. I'm in pretty decent shape, so I'm hoping for several more. I'm hoping to at least make Gary Con 10. That's 5 years from the one coming up. Yeah. So, yeah, I said I would. And again, I said, certainly you can, use my name however you like. I'm glad to do it because we're getting together to celebrate Gary's life, not to mark his death, but to celebrate his life. Mm-hmm. And they started the Legends thing. Mike Carr runs his he runs his Le Mans, and he runs Fight in the Skies, and Paul Storm.
Goodman Games shows up there, don't they?
Pardon?
Goodman Games, they go up there.
They are this year. I believe they were. I met Michael Curtis there last year, but I couldn't. I don't believe he. I don't know one way or another if he was there on behalf of Goodman Games. I answer that.
I know Dave Kenzer and the rest of the Kenzer crew. They make it that's part of their regular convention circuit thing from now on. I know
absolutely.
That.
Yeah, Dave and Jolly and are just they wouldn't think. I believe they would feel the same as I do. Unless there's a really compelling reason, they'll be there.
Yeah, they're a great bunch of guys. I've
They
known
are.
them for a number of years, and I've always enjoyed being around them and doing stuff for them too. So
Well, it was funny. Last year was the first time Jolly and I actually got time to sit down and talk to each other for more than 4 minutes. One of us sitting, one of us standing at the booth, and we later found out that we did a double geek out.
oh, really?
He was geeking as much as I was at meeting each other because
Wow.
he later told me that he had modeled Gygax Magazine after my adventure gaming.
Oh,
and he
wow.
told me how they used to drive 50, 60 miles every month to the nearest hobby shop that carried it. And I was very whoa, this is just too cool because here I am. I'm talking to the guy that does the Knights of the Dinner Table. How
Yeah.
cool is this? So we had a duplicate geek out moment, and we laughed about it afterwards. And we share a few interests. It's kind of fun. I always look forward to him, and we correspond on Facebook back and forth now and again.
That's awesome.
Well, see, I'm still catching up on the Knights. I didn't know anything about the Knights for a long time because, like I said, I stayed out of gaming.
One of the things I really enjoy, I don't know if they do it at GaryCon, but I know they do it at Origins and Gen Con, is the live readings.
Oh,
The Knights of the Dinner Table live readings are a riot.
I don't think they've ever done that. Well, I've not seen them do that at GaryCon.
Oh.
But then I am so busy at GaryCon. This year I'm running three adventures, the Circus Maximus Finals, and a classic Warfare Miniatures game under the Legends banner thing of the Legend, because that's Gary's Miniatures rules, and I actually edited them. And then I'm doing what I'm calling the Shake the Hat game.
Okay.
Last year, they came up to me and wanted to know if I'd, during the middle of the auction, a person who shall remain nameless came up to me and said something about, what about the exclusive game? And, well, months before, somebody had come up with this idea, and I had not responded to it, about auctioning off a game with so-and-so, a game with so-and-so for you and 6 of your friends, this type of thing.
Right.
And I said, no way, I'm doing a game tomorrow on Sunday. And you never followed up on that. I didn't bring anything for something like that. So what I did is I whipped off my black fedora, my treasured black fedora, which was actually getting rather old and shapeless, to be honest. But I love that hat. I whipped it off in the middle of the auction. I said, okay, and now the next item is this hat. Okay, we're going to auction this hat for charity. And what this hat will get you is you bring it to the table, and you summon me by shaking this hat 3 times over the table, saying my name. I will arrive with a custom adventure for you and 6 of your friends next year.
Yeah.
And it went for a couple $300.
Wow.
And then the guy offered to give me the hat back. I said, no, my wife's going to be delighted that she finally got that one off my head. So I've got this game, and what I'm going to do there is first, I'm going to actually, I don't play in 3 dimensions. I don't even play with miniatures. Now, I'm one of the cons, and people want to have miniatures for their own play. That's fine. If they need that spatial reference, I never had them because there weren't fantasy miniatures when we started playing. And,
Right.
you bought plastic bugs in the dime store. So I'm going to do an above-ground, 3-dimensional. I found this plaster castle.
Oh.
It's about, I don't know, 15, 20 millimeter scale. I'm not sure exactly.
Right.
But I had wrapped it in newspaper and put it away in 1982. And I only have 2 towers. And I don't have a whole castle, but I have parts of it. And so I decided that I'm going to stick all these on a 3x4 plywood board and go out and get some gravel that looks like it could, make a ruined castle. And then I'll donate that when the thing's all over to the charity auction. They can have, whoever wants it can have the castle. And I'm going to print up little cardboard or cardstock player characters for the players because I'm going to give them pre-gens. And I'm going to print them up little cardstock, send them one of those little bases. And we'll do a 3-dimensional game. Now, I've never done a 3-dimensional game, so it'll be interesting for me just to see how they handle it, because I'm not going to direct them in any way on that. I'm going to watch how they do it as I present them the thing, and then there'll be levels and stuff underneath.
Cool. That sounds great.
So, yeah, it's something new for me. I can experiment on these guys because it's for charity. And if they all die, well, it's for a good cause.
Hey, you know.
Well, somebody's actually making up a little something for me to take to GaryCon that comments on the average lethality of my adventures.
Oh, interesting.
So it's going to be interesting. Jim Ward and I apparently have the worst reputation in all role-playing for TPKs.
Oh, darn.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is something that makes note of that. So it should be interesting. If you'll probably see one online. In fact, there was one... somebody posted it on my Facebook page last week.
Oh.
It's my caricature in the wizard outfit.
Mm-hmm.
Cartoon, the cartoon of me in the wizard outfit. And it says, I went to GaryCon and all I got was TPK'd by Tim Kask.
Oh, I
did
think
see
I saw
that. Yeah.
Apparently, Jim Wampler gave him some art, and he's really going to make a bunch of those up and give them to me so I can, if I kill a party, they get one.
Awesome.
It's not dated. So if I don't kill a whole party, then I don't have to give them away this year.
It seems like I'm just the opposite, it seems like. My group seems as the
No, you what? You never kill players at a con?
Oh no, I have. I've done TPKs, but just my regular gaming group. It seems like they have this way of just breaking the adventure.
I believe that's really what attracted me in the first place. It made me stay with role playing.
Yeah.
Because I played 2 very brief adventures at Gen Con 74 and bought a box and took it home and infected my gaming group. And 2 of the things that turned me on about role playing is the fact that the 6 players that you're playing with for a few weeks all of a sudden are coming at you from 9 different directions. Yeah. The group mind multiplies not arithmetically but almost geometrically. And the fact is that nothing you can do can't be broken.
That's a fact.
If you play loose enough rules, that doesn't matter. If you're stuck with something like AD&D that is, more rules dependent, particularly those awful later editions. Now, if you're talking 1E, depending upon your DM, it's still a game that has a lot of flex in it. But if you're doing OD&D, let them try to break it. It'll just fuse together somewhere else. I do an act of hubris every once in a while at a con. I trick a group into thinking that they're running an adventure that I wrote, and actually we're making it up as we go along. There's nothing behind my screen, and they're writing the story. I start them. I put them in the starting line. Here's the situation. You're in deep doo. You got to fix it. Go. And they have this enormous city, and then what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? By the time I get around to the other side of the table, I give them answers. Well, you didn't find this out. Well, you heard about this. You heard about going somewhere, And then where do they take those clues? And we write the adventure as we go. I've done that at 2 cons, flipped the thing over, and they saw nothing behind there but my dice, and they flipped out. But that's the beauty of old school. Just go with the flow.
That's why it's so great. That's why it's so great.
I don't need a chart to tell me whether or not you can clean your toenails without stabbing yourself.
Yeah, I hope so.
Do you need a skill for pedicure?
No.
I think that may be one of the only ones I haven't heard of. An ability for pedicure?
Painting toenails
maybe
+2.
If you executed, if you offer to pare the ogre's toenails down.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think that's typical of some of the silliness in the hide rule-bound later editions.
Nick, you have any questions about GaryCon?
Nothing else about GaryCon as far as I can think of. I do have a question. I think, weren't you involved with the first Gen Con as well?
No.
Oh, I thought you were.
No. My car was. My car is to every single Gen Con, including the very first one on Gary's back porch.
Okay.
Yeah, he told me that in an interview, yeah.
Yeah, you need to talk to Mike. He's an interesting guy. I still feel, all these years later, that nobody has done World War I flying better than Fight in the Skies. And I have played a lot of flying games. I still don't think anybody has done any better. I think Wings of War came close because of their movement cards that took out the argument of movement. But Mike's Fight in the Skies is, good Lord, that's over 40 years. I think it's close to 40 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's over 40 years old because he designed that as a kid in high school. I have the utmost respect for Mike's design capabilities. When I found out how young he was when he made that game, and I love that game, I still play it. I still have my hand-painted count. We used to take the cardboard counters and paint them. I gave a bunch of them to Mike. He told me at a con last year or the year before, he still had them all.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
It is.
He gave a really good and interesting interview on Save or Die when I did it about a year or so ago. So if anyone's listening out there, just go to saveordie.info and you can find the Mike Carr interview we did.
No, you do multiple podcasts, Steve?
I did it at one time, yeah, and I just do this one now.
Oh, okay. All right, what else you want to know? That pretty much takes care of Eldritch and GaryCon. Now you want to talk about the magazine?
Sure.
Jason's hoping I will.
Oh yeah, we know.
You think?
I think, yeah.
Yeah, I interviewed you maybe 2 years ago on Save or Die.
Yeah.
With Mike and Liz.
Yeah. You
did. When you were answering the questions and telling yourself the questions at the same time.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. You're like, okay, my next question is, we're like, okay, you can ask the question.
Well, at that point in time, it had gotten to be a cliche.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to know the same. And, when this is how naive I was. Mm-hmm. When Frank brought me back to Gen Con auction in 2006, if you've ever seen Frank do the auction, you know how he can drag stuff out. Well,
yes, I've seen.
When he introduced me, he started talking about this mystery news celebrity auctioneer thing, and I am just cringing off stage. Just cringing. All day that day, when I'd walk through the dealer's area, I'd had my name tag turned over.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't even too cool if I was too cool about being back in gaming and stuff. Okay? Because I've been out of it for over 20 years,
Right.
And I naively thought that nobody had any idea who I was. And because again, I'd been away, I had no idea. I peripherally saw, I knew there was a D&D cartoon, but I didn't let my kids watch it. Well, I think it was during my daughter's time. She was probably watching Ponies and Smurfs, But he goes on, and then he introduces me and motions me up on the stage, and my golly, 500-600 people I'd never seen before gave me a standing ovation, and I looked at him and I said, behind the mic, so to speak, I said, "Geez, I just, this is just because I'm not dead. This is amazing." Because I hadn't done anything in 22 years. And there's all these people standing, and it just completely choked me up. And
it's amazing how stuff like that, how much it influences and impacts people.
Well, and what people know is Dragon Magazine, and I'm damn proud of starting Dragon Magazine. And what I've heard in recent years is that when it was still under my philosophy, which I shared with Gary from the very beginning, that we talk about everybody's stuff all the time. The rising tide lifts all boats. When we were doing that, apparently is when people have the fondest memories of the magazine. And I'm told repeatedly how it went downhill to the point where it almost became a monthly supplement because everything in it was official.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I wouldn't run this game if I had to go out and learn new rules every month just to keep going.
Yeah, there's another magazine out there like that. White Dwarf, excuse me.
Yeah, I've seen it. To be frank, I'm no more impressed with White Dwarf now than I was when it first started. But they seem to be doing well. Who puts them out?
I don't
Games
know.
Workshop.
Yeah, oh yeah, the evil overlords.
The people that are now trying to claim that no one can use the word Space Marine.
Yeah.
Novel that was taken down by the buffoons on Amazon.
It's back up.
Proceeds went to the Wounded Warrior Project, and now she can no longer sell it.
It's back up, Tim.
Oh, did it go up today?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I'm kind of glad because I posted that. I went all over Facebook. I like to think sometimes I have a long spoon. I can stir things up. And I stirred up a lot of, I reposted that one link on 7 different pages. And then I realized a mistake because the next time I looked at my notifications, I had 73.
I think even Jolly did kind of a little
Yes.
thing.
Oh.
I saw he did that.
Yeah, lots of people shared it after I used it, and it was all over the place. And I had to block several of the threads because I was just getting too many notifications. I couldn't handle them all.
Wow.
It was amazing. So that was fun. But anyway, where were we? Gen Con, why I got back into gaming. Well, Dragon's Foot asked me to do a thread. And I'm coming back to why I was answering my own questions. Dragon's Foot asked me to do a thread, and Frank encouraged me to do it. And Frank gave me a lot of encouragement in those first couple of years about, building my brand and getting it active and involved again and, dusting cobwebs off my brain. And I laughingly thought, yeah, okay, this will last 6 months. Yeah, right. Here I am still.
Famous last words.
100 and some pages later.
Yeah. That's still going strong.
Well, pardon me, some of my old pages, apparently something happened to some of my pages because either they've shelved some of them or whatever, but the count dropped. But it's okay because a person I didn't even know one day wrote me an email and said, how would you like me to index your thread? I said, wow, sure, I'm broke. Oh, no.
Okay, cool.
And so the guy does it for a hobby, and he indexed 120 pages of my thread.
Holy moly.
Yeah, I got half a book in there. Because everybody wanted to know the same things. What was it like back then? What about Blackmore? How was Gary to work with? How was the dragon? Everybody, and that's okay. I'm not belittling that because I know it's important. I know it's the foundations of, what I now see, has grown into something huge.
And that is a good point because I also, again, looking at it from a historical perspective, because we do interviews with you, Tim, and Frank, and all the other folks. It's like I think it's important that we have to remember where this hobby came from, or remember how it began, the progression of things, and I think we have to record that in a certain way or another. And like recording that thread of yours and how it's been archived and indexed, that's all important. That's all historical information there.
I just gotten approached by a museum in New York that they do archive projects, and from what I can make out, I haven't responded yet. From what I can make out, they'd like a bunch of drafts, and they'd like to archive how one of my adventures got to print.
Oh.
They want to know the process.
Well, but they also want to archive. They want the files and stuff.
Oh, wow.
They want to what they collect. They've got a grant, and like I said, I've asked a couple of people out on the east to check this place out to see if they're, real, because it sounds a little odd, but I'm considering because there are a few of my adventures that I probably could put together drafts at different stages, and the ones I did with Celtic Studios before Eldritch, I have those. Most of I have at least one of all of those that I printed on my own printer and punched out and bound myself, that type of thing. So that might be interesting because I could then put an Eldritch product at the end because Snake Riders started in a much larger adventure that I wrote for Texas. And Weaver was also written for a Texas con, as it so happens. Again, out of the larger venue of the desert of my world. So that's kind of weird. I sometimes find it gratifying and humbling. Last year I sold a TSR belt buckle that was mint, granted, because I'd brought it home all those years ago, wrapped it in a sock and put it in my wife's cedar chest and forgotten about it until I found it. And I couldn't believe that a man paid $650.
Wow.
Belt buckle because it was mine. It's very humbling, very gratifying, but I don't pretend to understand it. I'm very humbled by it, though. And when people stop me in the halls at Gen Con or Texas or whatever and thank me for the trouble they stayed out of when they were 17 or 18 or whatever, or the pursuits that I gave them that expanded their minds to become writers, or a couple of years ago at Gen Con, this gentleman he was maybe 8 years my junior, 9 years my junior. And he told me about how he and his two brothers had stayed out of trouble through all their high school summer. And he was a U.S. District Court judge. And I said, well, I guess we didn't do too good a job of ruining you, did we? Because people, we got that in the beginning. We were ruining the youth of America with black magic and devil worship.
I remember that whole thing in the, the early 80s with that, too. And
it started before the early 80s.
Yeah, that's when I kind of got into the whole scene. But it's like, you bore the brunt of that.
Well, it's funny. I've got an anecdote. There were several game burnings, and they were primarily fundamentalist. Could say fundamentalist or splinter church groups. Well, anecdotally, I heard several years later by somebody who was a kid and saw it happen, that this one group had piled all these games and whatever in a pile on their asphalt parking lot. And somebody had gone and gotten his boss's bulldozer to drive over them and crush them, while I don't know where they're burning. I don't know what was going on there. But apparently in their zeal, the guy just tore the parking lot to shreds.
Oh, jeez.
Nice.
I thought, he deserved it. What a fool. What a fool. And when I was asked, when I decided to go back to teaching and get my master's in education at a somewhat advanced age, I was asked, people would ask me, well, whatever made you want to go back into teaching? And I'd look them dead in the eye, deadpan. Well, in my 20s and 30s, I was accused of ruining an entire generation of Americans with devil worship and Satanism and dragons and magic. I believe now, though, that I could do it much better 30 at a time for an hour. I'd wait. And if it didn't, then I would laugh, to let them know I was pulling their leg. But looks I got on the faces were priceless.
Oh, my God.
Some of them. Just priceless.
Shaping young minds since 1980 with black magic, huh, Tim?
Oh, no, since 1975.
1975, excuse me, yes.
5 years. If you're going to cut those off, I want to be 59 and not 64. I want those 5 years back. I could use them. Probably.
Oh, boy.
Gygax Magazine.
Yes, Gygax Magazine.
Yeah, what do you see in the future there for Gygax Magazine in your crystal ball?
Have you seen your copies yet?
I have my copy, yes.
I am waiting patiently.
Think about it. Tell me.
Oh, I was saying think about it. I was waiting for you to have me something to think about.
No, you think about the magazine. You have yours.
Yeah,
What do you think about it?
Yeah, Vince has this. I haven't got mine yet.
I've enjoyed every aspect of it. The only major complaint I've had about this is the binding, and that's about it. I don't know if maybe my copy has a bad binding or not. I don't know.
Well, I haven't heard that yet, but I'll file that, and if I start hearing these, I'll certainly pass it on to Jason.
It's not like it's falling apart. It's just it's not flat like a magazine. It kind of.
Well, yeah, we've discussed saddle stitching and this type, and right now this type is considerably more affordable. Mm-hmm. And you got to remember, this first mission was put out entirely out of Jason's pocket.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Now, we did get all the artists and authors to donate, to give us what they gave us for nothing. And we did reach out to certain advertisers and say, could you give us an ad? We won't charge you. Because the original intent, we were going to produce this entire thing basically in secret and come out with it like Aphrodite springing out of Zeus's forehead, or did I mix my mythologies there?
No, they're both Greek.
No, they're both Greek, yeah.
Because you can't get a distributor on a prospectus. You can't get advertisers on a plan. This is Jason's thinking, and I wholeheartedly believe he's right. So he was putting this together, and it got leaked. But
because he leaked it, that's why. I think he leaked it on his own. So
no, we did not. Believe me, we've had a Facebook page since last summer, but only 6 of us can access it. Okay, we were doing everything we could, and I was not involved in releasing the advertising prospectus. So I don't know why we did, or if, good, bad, indifferent, it happened. It is what it is.
We actually figured out the whole TSR thing like last year when we were having a conversation online, and we were looking up the trademark, and we saw that Jason bought the trademark for it. Mm-hmm. So we worked our way from there with Jason. He's like, "Oh, you figured it out."
Yeah, big
like something was up, but we didn't know exactly what.
Yeah.
Well, and if you followed N-World before they got hacked and went offline, there was lots of resistance from certain quarters to what we were doing and what we were calling it. And
you don't have a few naysayers, but you can't please everybody, right?
Exactly, and again, it is what it is. When we spoke earlier about the joy of sitting down with a new magazine and reading it from front to back, we don't dilute that, which was why every month the PDF will come out after the table copy.
I like that.
We want you to see it first time flipping through the pages. Whether that means you're looking at the table of contents, running back to the comics, looking to see what I'm talking about this month. Flipping through the ads for the new ogre figures you're looking, whatever. We want it to be physical. We want you to smell the paper.
Oh, I love the paper.
You don't smell the ink nowadays, but you can smell the paper.
The first thing I did, Tim, when I opened this up was flip right to the comics in the back because I, ordered the stick and Phil and Dixie.
Dude,
that's right. You got Phil and Dixie in there.
I used to flip to Wormy and Phineas, even though I still wanted to see how they came out.
And then you got the 2-page spread of Marvin the Mage. I was like, yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I think we have
was a favorite.
We have some great talent committed. We have even greater artists lined up. Literally, I mean, we're only doing 4 a year, so you can only have 4 covers a year. And if I drop some of the names that have said they'd like to do a cover, your jaws had hit their desk. So I'm very encouraged by the art. Jim Wampler has done a magnificent job of lining up art and artists. We have a very unusual requirement for our art. It's not electronic. There has to be a real hard copy somewhere.
Yeah. That's what
Jason mentioned that.
Yes. Well, it's old school, but it's also going to look better. I think. Mm-hmm. I think it is, because that's the look we're looking for. First thing my wife said when my copy came, huh, this looks like your old Dragon. I said, yeah, you think? Yeah, we knew that. We were, Jason. It's Jason's homage to the old days, the early days of the Dragon, and I'm gratified and grateful for that.
I think that's one of the real neat things about this is like the layout, the format reflects that old school look, but yet it's inclusive to everything that's happening today.
Mm-hmm. Well, now I will say this: we're a little more RPG heavy this first issue than I would like, and we are striving to cover the entire market. But when you're asking for articles, you go to the people you know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we got some great stuff. Don't take it any other way. I mean, I'm tickled to death to see some of the people we got in there. I love to see Lenny Lakovka's stuff again. Mm-hmm. I love to see it. I see he has not mellowed much with age. If anything, he's taking lessons from me and becoming more of a curmudgeon.
Oh, he's got a great article here.
And we've got, well, just to give you an idea, we recognize the fact that there are basically three distinct fields of gaming: RPGs, boards, and minis. And we recognize the fact that they overlap. Mm-hmm. For instance, I'm doing a feature article on Samurai Battles, which is a miniatures, plastic toy, beautiful plastic soldiers on a board game board. Very miniatures feel, but very abstracted. Beautiful game. It uses the commands and colors system that's already in Ancients and Memoir 44. Richard Borg has done it again. So, okay, we're hitting two of the bases right there. Beautiful little lovely figures that are relatively inexpensive in a board game that's real fun and easy to play. And you can play a scenario once you know the rules in about 60 to 90 minutes. Beautiful game. We know that, when minis and RPGs wrap in together, it's, there's things there. We're looking at the wrap over from boards to minis as well, like Flames of War. These types of things. We're looking at family games. My column is still gaming after all these years, or still playing after all these years. I'm going to talk about specifically gaming with young kids, not war gaming, just gaming. And a program that I'm trying to get established here at my local library, and then hopefully onto the county system of playing games with kids, because there are studies, Stanford, Brigham Young, studies that games give kids social skills. They help teach advanced reasoning skills. You don't think about it. I didn't really think about it until I was back studying for my master's. But a game as simple as Sorry. Yeah. Everybody knows Sorry. You got 3 pawns out, you draw a 6. By counting out where each of the 3 pawns go and taking the best move, that's something we as adults take for granted. But when you see kids do it, you realize that they're starting to think cognitively. Cognitive reasoning.
Problem solving.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, my 2 youngest grandchildren learned to add with dice, playing games with Grandpa. They both became better readers so that they could read the cards themselves. I saw, when I did this back in November at the library with a bunch of kids, I saw an 8-year-old girl trying to read the cards on Corey's Adventurers card game. And they're not easy to read, but she was determined to try. And when I started helping her, she just, oh, wow, now she really wanted to read those cards. So I'm talking about playing games with your kids, not to make them war gamers, but for what they do better in school. Mm-hmm. Studies, they do better in school. They learn. One of the things that Gary and I sat and discussed in 77 or 78, when D&D was really starting to boom, we sat in his office one day, and the topic, I don't know, we were just having an end of the weekend session of BSing, but we came to the realization that one of the neatest things that had happened was that we gave socially inept people a means of socializing.
Yes.
Yeah. Because it was the eggheads, the brains, which was what they were called then, now geeks, nerds, whatever, tend to be loners or tend to socialize only with one or two others. And they tend, just a fact of, percentages, they tend to be less social, but that we had given them ways to be social. We taught them how to cooperate in a group. But natural leaders had come to the fore. Never before discovered leadership talents had a chance to shine. So, 3 years into it, 4 years into it, we kind of knew what might come of it, and it was starting to come of it. But then again, if you'd have said then that what was going to be like 5 years later, we'd have said, yeah, right, I hope. That'd be nice.
I definitely enjoy the picture in your article in the magazine, the picture of you behind the DM screen crafting away there.
I loved it so much that I decided I'm going to make it my column art.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
In the next issue, issue number 3, years ago, I made up a set of miniatures rules to use all those lovely little plastic ships that used to come in bubblegum packs and you snapped them together.
Yes.
And I taught them, in fact, my youngest grandson, that's what he cut his teeth on as a gamer. Miniatures. Plastic miniatures, but miniatures. And he loved it. Oh, come on, Grandpa, let's play ships. So I decided to do one step up from what came with it. 1 die, 2 die cannon, whatever. I would call them chainmail simplicity. Okay? Not War Games Research Group, chainmail. And I tried to market them, and it sat in somebody's limbo for a long time, and then lo and behold, several of the concepts that I had thought of showed up in their new packs, but that's another story. But they're real simple, fun rules. I got boarding parties, Vikings tying their ships together. Just, fun, simple. So many of us. I have 2 storage tubs full of assembled ones. I haven't bought any of these, by the way, because a friend of my son's mom worked at WizKids. I have entire sets that are shrink wrapped, not in packages, just the cards. I mean, I have hundreds of these things. And I thought, well, there's got to be other people who has at least dozens of them.
Oh, I got a whole box of them too. My friend Jeff and we occasionally will play that, and it's a fun game. Don't get me wrong. Because it's a great game that's like you could almost do like a pickup game with it almost anywhere.
Well, yeah, it's so simple, and so fast. Pardon me, I was getting away from my... I'm going to make you drool if you've got these. I have the Pirates of the Cursed Sea scavenger pack with the special side wheeler that comes assembled with 11 ships, 11 more ships in the box.
Ooh. Nice.
Yeah, I have, let's see, what's this?
Do you have that huge Chinese junk?
Oh, Pirates of the Frozen North. No, what's this?
I got the one huge Chinese junk, and I also have the Santa Claus ship.
Oh, you do? I don't know if I have that. I probably do, and I've never seen it because I have an entire cardboard box here of stuff that I haven't unassembled.
Yeah, the Santa Claus ship is cool. He doesn't shoot cannonballs at the opponents. He shoots treasure into your hole, then you go away.
I don't know if I have that or not. I don't know. Did it come pre-assembled?
No, it did not. It did not come pre-assembled. I just remember going to a game store here where I live, and I was looking at all the one ships for pirates, and I'm like, what is that? He was like, yeah, this is the ship for Santa Claus. I'm like, oh, I gotta get that.
Yes. Yeah, I've got whole sets that are still shrink wrapped.
Wow. That is a fun game, though. I remember when I
just took it up
playing that.
I just took it up a notch.
Yeah.
And we're going to publish those in number 3.
Oh, awesome.
What to do with all those ships you still got sitting around. And it's fun and it's simple. And if you're already playing the rules with your kids, this is an easy step up.
Yeah.
And you can step up in stages. I put down real simple stuff like turning with the wind and turning into the wind. Because there are no wind rules in the game.
That's true.
Well, it's real simple. I'm printing a compass rose, the diagram that shows you. And so all you do is determine the wind at the beginning of the game. No stealing the wind gauge.
I do have a question about the magazine. It just popped into my head. It's like, now that the first issue of Gygax Magazine is out, and the overwhelming response, positive response there has been. In the future of this, could this go beyond maybe a quarterly?
That's one of the questions, yeah.
It would be my hope that by the time we're getting ready for 4 and no later than 5, our advertising base will support either, I'd like to do incremental size increases. We're at 64 now. I'd like to go to 80. Mm-hmm. And that will only happen if the advertising base supports it. I believe, without being cocky or anything, I believe that we have a unique platform that people are going to, producers are going to want to be in. We've already been approached by several. We've been approached by a couple and said, no, you can't have that many pages. Because we do not want anybody to think that we're under anybody's thumb. All right? When we have more ad pages, then you can have another one or whatever. And we've said that to a couple of people because we will fiercely maintain our independence.
Right.
Fiercely maintain our independence.
Good.
We have had very positive vibes from the industry. We have no worries about any big game companies coming down and squatting on us, because it seems as though everybody's glad to see what we're doing. And as long as we maintain our independence, and in so doing provide a balanced magazine about all of gaming, then I foresee no problems in the future, and I foresee becoming a bi-monthly at some point, maybe a year from now. But no need to hurry in. No need, there's no need to get hasty.
Just get the first 4 done first. That's it.
Right.
Exactly. Right. We have distribution, both foreign and domestic. We have negotiated better shipping rights for foreign shipping. I did the research prior to release back in October or November on what it would cost. Actually, it was in November after the brouhaha hit, on what it would cost, because people were asking me how much to get this to Poland, how much to get this to Brazil. And I went online, and the best we could hope for was U.S. International Priority Flat Rate, flat envelope, and at the time it was $16. I know that's a lot of money, but it's the most reliable way we could come up with. Everything else is pretty chancy. Yeah. And having been in the business twice myself, you have to expect a certain amount of loss each month. It happens. It happens. The bigger you get, the more copies you end up replacing. And you can't tell people who write your letter, hey, man, I didn't get number 3. Liar. You can't do that. Sorry you didn't get it. We sent it. Sorry. And that's all you can do. So, advertising will drive size and frequency. But when you start talking about increasing your frequency, your load, your need for material goes up. And you don't use, we're working on submission guidelines, because anybody who knew me back in the early days will tell you my desk was literally 6 deep, always, because we got so many unsolicited manuscripts, so much unsolicited art, because at the time we were the only game in town.
Yeah.
And we now find ourselves the only domestic game in town. So I have been, this is one of my very firm, adamant advice has been submit guidelines. If they can't give us a 2-page précis and impress us with what they want to do, we don't want to read their 17-page opus full of spelling errors.
Yeah.
I found some good writers back in the day. I found some good artists. In fact, I was going through some stuff, and I found 7 old original Dean Morrissey black and white ink drawings on vellum. Ooh. Yeah. And I tried to get a hold of Nick, or Dean, rather, and I sent him emails telling him I had them, and I just assumed give them to him, then do anything else with them, but I couldn't destroy them, and I've never heard from him.
Oh.
Well, they're not nearly as good as what he did later. I was we were able to discover new talent. We found some new talent this issue already, and Jim has found more. That's one of the neat things about doing this, is you get to give good talent an outlet. And as long as they do something that fits your needs as the magazine, yeah, come on board. So looking at balance, we're looking at doing more than one issue at a time, because we recognize that RPGs are the dominant portion of the industry, but we will do ourselves no good by only catering to that portion of the market. And I do not believe, personally, that people that play RPGs don't play board games and don't minis. Some of them do both, some of them do one, some of them do the other, but I just do not believe that many people only RPG. And maybe if they do, we'll convert them.
Yeah, I don't think I've met a gamer in my whole time that they haven't done something besides role-playing, and done board games, wargaming, card-collecting games, you name it.
Started with board games in grade school, discovered miniatures in college, and, of course, the rest is history.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much cross-pollination between all the different types. I mean, we're all gamers here, so it's like there's just different types of games to play.
We were talking about earlier about the later players going, why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? The thing that people don't realize, and it's okay if they're not old enough, is that the brown box was written for miniatures players.
Right.
Yes, there were a lot of things that were understood by miniatures players. By the time I got there, we recognized that we were starting to go farther afield than just miniatures players, so we started writing the stuff differently. We tried to start codifying it. We started supplementing it in specific directions to fill out the array of places we wanted it to go, so to speak. It was for minis guys. And even us minis guys had trouble with it. If you have not read John's book, Gaming at the World, you must.
Okay.
John Peterson.
Gaming at the World.
Have to look that one up.
Yeah.
I believe his last name's Peterson. I'm embarrassed now, and his book's too far away on the other side of the basement for me to read with glasses. But it is the best book I've ever read about games and gaming. Not the personalities that play, but the history of games, from the Kriegspiel, the parlor stuff that the rich guys had, right up to the minis groups of the 60s and how D&D evolved. Excellent book. I recommend it highly enough.
Gaming the World, you said?
Gaming at the World.
Gaming of the World, okay.
Excellent book. I was worried because when I met the author last year at a dinner that a group was having, and he wouldn't take my money because I had meant to ask him to bring one, and I'd forgotten, and he wouldn't take my money. And I said, why not? And he says, because you haven't read it yet. And I thought, uh-oh. And then I found out I'm cited, dozens of times in there. And I can honestly say that there are, to my knowledge, from my point of where I come into the history of it, there are no major errors of fact whatsoever in the book. I may not agree with a couple of his interpretations or his summations, but the man is an absolutely meticulous researcher, and you will learn more about where role-playing came from than you ever knew before, because I did, and I was there at the beginning, and I still learn more.
Wow. I got to get this book. Sounds fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, John gives me a big kiss for this book I just gave him. If I could only remember his last name. Neither one of you's got a smartphone there. You can look that up.
I was just looking it up on Amazon to see if I could find it, but I was unable to find it. I don't know, Nick, can you find it anywhere?
Gaming at the World?
Playing at the World. Let me run over and grab mine.
Yeah, go ahead.
Playing at the World.
Playing at the... Yeah, I couldn't find it when I was looking for it.
Yes. Playing at the World, a history of simulating war.
Here it is.
Fantastic Adventures from Chess to Role-Playing Games by John Peterson. It's published by...
Found it.
Reason Press. You found it.
Yeah.
I don't know what it'll cost you, but it'll be the best read you'll ever have in gaming, about gaming.
It's on Amazon. It is rated 5 stars out of 16 reviews. It is going for brand new $30.18.
Well, I'm glad he didn't take my money. I was only it for 20, so the advanced copies went for 20. But John,
now I see the cover. I think I heard about this book, Ned.
You guys need to get him. You need to get this book, read it. That'll take some time because it's a monster. Not counting the. Well, counting the index, it's almost 700 pages.
Yeah. 720 pages, it says.
Wow.
Okay, that's a different binding than I have. I have the first binding then, because mine has 696. So it went into another print. It should have. It deserves to. Yeah, and then read it, and then get him on here.
Not a bad idea.
Him on here lots longer than I've been jabbering tonight. You do a whole series with John.
Wow. Yeah, we'll see if we can try to drop him a line if we can get a hold of him somewhere. That'd be great.
Well, if you fail, Vince, you let me know, and I'll put you two in touch.
Oh, definitely. We'll talk after the show.
Okay. Yeah, I can probably open up my email without cutting the connection. As long as it doesn't take any brains, I'm okay.
So we do have some questions from fans on the Facebook here.
Hey, I have no idea how you're going to edit this down. Good Lord.
We're going to keep it
our
as
people
is.
love the long shows.
Yeah.
So.
And they're going to love this one tonight. They might not like me, but they'll love the show for its length. Okay, questions from the audience.
Mark, CMG, on Facebook.
Oh, yes.
He wants to know what your favorite George Carlin bit is.
There was
Keep in mind that this is a kid-friendly show.
There was actually a time that I knew I had all of his albums as they came out. Class Clown, which is probably my favorite album because we both went to Catholic school and it sounded like we suffered the same torment. I had listened to his stuff so much, I didn't know it, but people now tell me every once in a while I was at a party last year at TotalCon, and I started telling a story, and I was halfway through, and somebody said, "You just switched on George Carlin." And I said, "Oh, sorry. It happens." I was a huge fan of his. We're going to miss his poking the fanny every once in a while, poking the eye.
I remember getting for, I think, My folks got me for my 11th or 12th birthday his comedy album, A Place for My Stuff.
Well, the very first time I saw him, now this will date me badly, might have been Jack Parr when he had the Tonight Show. It wasn't Steve Allen, but he did. George Carlin was completely different. He went hippie. Before that, he was slick suits, slick back hair. He did a thing called the Hippy Dippy Weatherman.
I remember seeing that, yeah.
Okay, that's where he started switching personalities, was when he was doing that. And I saw him do that on The Tonight Show, and he blew me away. And then when he started coming out with albums in the 70s, I was his prime market, and I had them all. Loved him. All right, next question from the viewers.
Okay.
Next question from the viewers.
From the viewers. This one comes up from Dale McCoy. He wants to know, what games have you played lately, and what games do you want to play but simply do not have the time for?
Question. I have been playing a lot of Samurai Battles. I say a lot. Don and I are able to get together every other week because we're both busy, but Don's a member of my real old game group from the very beginning back here in Cincinnati. Samurai Battles. I highly recommend it. The one I want to play and haven't had time yet is Mice and Mystics from Plaid Hat Games. I'm fascinated by the game. I'm fascinated by its structure. It plays out, and they call them chapters, but they're really little mini scenarios. It's got neat little mouse pieces.
It sounds kind of like what's that one book series?
Mouse Guard?
Yeah. No. It kind of sounds like that, or like Secret and Nim kind of thing. Sounds really interesting.
Well, no, actually, from what I've seen, there's 5 or 6 personas. You play one of them, and each of them has a different skill or ability. And then you have, like, missions, and some of them take place in the pipes of the sewers. So you're running around in all these sewer pipes doing things. Again, I've only been able to dip into it a little bit. I'm fascinated by it. Then I have 2 Viking games that I haven't been able to play enough yet. Sword and Fire and the Vikings. Yeah, I have 2 Viking games that I have not been able to play yet, but I want to. I always have board games I want to play and can't. Always. I say I'll never buy another one until I've played all the way, and that never happens. That's why I got Mice and Mystics. Next.
Okay. Next question comes from Montana Cole Squires, and he wants to know, well, he originally wrote how much player death is proper, but he corrected it to say character, so...
Yeah, I never kill my players. I just nail characters. Well, to be frank, I truly do not... 97.25% of the time, I truly do not kill players. Now, that odd little percentage there is a guy at the first Gary Con that was so annoying, I killed him. In the course of the adventure, but I just got him the hell out of the... Excuse me. I got him out of the away from the table, and after he'd cleared the room, everybody there looked at me and go, wow, thanks. So I don't normally deliberately kill people. As Jim Ward would probably said first, I merely provide them myriad opportunities to kill themselves. In my own campaign, which we ran briefly here, and it's being reformulated, and when con season's over, I'll probably start it up again. My own campaign, the only deaths we had were at the end of our break-in period. We had decided that, we're all new group, and so I got out one of my adventures, and in fact, it was before I rewrote it, the Weaver, and they died because they did something stupid. And we were publishing on Facebook Tales from the Back Room at Yada Quest. And that was an account. It's now on Jim Wampler's website. I would write up the adventure each week, what had happened, how it worked out. He drew up a cartoon to go with it, which is where my caricature came from in the first place.
Oh, okay.
Did that answer the question?
Yes. Okay, the next question. Let's see. Bill Meyer, or Mayer, I think it's Meyer, How have you enjoyed the transition with helping get Gygax Magazine started, and what is your biggest frustration in trying to get the magazine off the ground and running?
Well, it's been extremely gratifying knowing that I had a hand in helping Jason shape his vision. Extremely gratifying. Jason asked me for my opinion, and then he proved to me he valued it. And any human being is going to respond in that regard. Don't ask me my opinion and then tell me I'm full of it or disregard it. Why did you ask me in the first place? So that's been very gratifying. The response has been gratifying. This week we should start seeing more stuff online, people looking at their magazines, talking about them. The fact that we already have landed a distributor is Yahoo time. My greatest frustration, well, I've not really had one yet. If I had anything to do again, I would have slightly altered the mix in the first one, so we weren't quite so RPG heavy. But that's all. I don't really. That doesn't even really rate as a frustration. Just kind of a. Well, okay. Next time we'll do it. People need to realize that. Jason, I don't know if it was an interview one of you guys did with him, but he put it well when he said, "I'm just kind of the guy that stands behind his shoulder." Yeah, I think he credited me with holding a ball bat or something. But
I hope not.
He joked about it, but I became the face, the voice of the magazine when it all blew up before Thanksgiving. But James Carpio is the games editor. I advise him on how to get a good mix. I just did a Wheel of Fortune type thing I drew up with the way I see if we can, hit this percentage, this many slots every issue, we're hitting the market as the market exists. So that's our goal, is that certainly it's going to be role-playing heavy. That's the majority of the market. But we also hope that there'll be stuff in there that you'll read about other things that you'll go, oh, cool, maybe I'll try that. Whether it's a game, whether you just decide to sit down with your nieces and your nephews the next time the families can get together and play with them. That's what we want to provide, is thinking, not agreement, not slavish devotion, thinking. The thing that I told Jason, and I believe he shares with me, I was asked, about the third year of the Dragon, somebody made some comment about, well, yeah, you got X number of people to do whatever you tell them. And I go, whoa, no, that's not where I'm at. I don't. In fact, I'd rather see somebody send me back a 2-page typewritten letter telling me how full of beans I was because of some article, because it means that he sat down, thought it out, organized his thoughts, and put them down into a letter. I win. All I want to do each month is reach out and scratch their brains and make them think. Don't care what they think. Don't care how they end up thinking. Don't care what their final thought process is. Don't care. If they think, I win. I believe Jason has the same philosophy. Lord knows I've tried to inculcate it in him, that we're not trying to tell people how to game. We're telling people, game, enjoy it, look afield, look at the other games besides where you are now. Here's this new one. Try this. Try that. In the third issue, I'm hoping some role players got a bunch of those silly ships laying around. Oh, well, okay, what the heck? Let's try this. Even if they don't like it, I don't care. They tried it. They expanded their horizons. I never wanted to print a magazine that, like the Dragon became. You must think this.
Yeah, over time it did become like it became a house magazine for the game.
Well, it actually said across the top that it was official.
Yeah.
If they put a rule change in there, it was official. Mm-hmm. And people that played 3.5 that treated it that way. I heard one of them grousing one day. Oh, geez, they just changed such a... We're playing tomorrow night, and I got to figure out what it means. And I was just dumbfounded. What? What do you mean they just changed it? It's your game. Oh, no, you got to play the rules. That's when I realized there was a whole different subset of role players out there. It's okay if they're having fun. I don't care. 2 years ago, I published on my thread, I gave up the edition wars. I eschew the edition wars. If you're having fun, whatever system you're using is just fine for you.
Exactly. All right.
Next question.
Let's see. Next question comes from Dwayne Wallace. He asks, what is your favorite monster to throw at your player characters and your favorite trap to use?
Well, my favorite monster is the first one I created, the Boule.
Mm-hmm.
The land shark.
Well, that is one nasty, nasty beastie.
Yes, it is.
It's a warm, fuzzy spot in my heart for the Boule. People that play in my game didn't ever want to go outdoors. They never wanted to go outdoors. Traps, I never really got into ingenious, involved, complex traps. That was more of an abstraction in my games. You triggered it or you didn't. You disabled it or you didn't. I stayed pretty much to the mundane, spikes and needles out of the walls, spikes up out of the floor, rocks out of the ceiling, There are, in one of my recently published adventures, in fact, Curse of the Weaver, there's a couple of things that happen in there that might be considered trap-like.
Okay. So the last question we have for you, you basically answered part one already when Nick asked a question about moving from quarterly to monthly publications, but Scott Culkins expands on it by saying, if you were to do that, what would be the criteria to make that transition smooth? Well,
see, it wouldn't go from quarterly to monthly.
Okay.
We started out when we started the Dragon from Strategic Review. We spun it into actually two magazines. A lot of people don't remember Little Wars. Little Wars was devoted to all the rest of gaming besides fantasy, and it was a much smaller piece of the market. And we eventually ended up folding them back in. But we went bi-monthly. For a reason. You need a lot of material on hand to be able to get the mix that you seek. You can't always think your file drawer is going to have just the right mix for the salad this month. All right? You just can't do that. So if we're going to go from a quarterly to more frequent, I would say go to 6 the next year. And then my personal advice will be, I don't think we'll ever go beyond maybe 8 or 9 a year. There's several other magazines that quite successfully use those numbers. People think none the less of them. And you're able to put out a better product. You don't dilute your product when you put it out too much. If you don't have enough there, it starts to get diluted. In the early Dragon, particularly, but less so in Little Wars, I rewrote so much of what went in because I discovered young writers that had great ideas that didn't know how to write yet. Well, they'd see what I do to their article, and the next time they sent me in one, it looked a lot more like the one I'd done, what I'd made out of their first one. I helped some people learn to write. Because I only needed fantasy stuff every other month. No, I had no lack of military stuff. There's guys on the History Channel and the Military Channel now that when they were kids were writing for Little Wars. The guy that's on for the Tank Museum, big bull-neck guy, bald head, he was sending in articles when he was in high school.
Get out of town. Really?
No, yeah, really.
That's amazing.
John Prados. I published John Prados in Little Wars magazine. There are a couple others that I've seen on TV. And, I point them out to my wife, and she's going, oh, God, another one. Yeah, there were guys, they were historians just getting into that, and I was an outlet for them, and they wrote good stuff. Obviously, I published it. It wasn't just the best. I wrote it and didn't do much to it. They were better. Actually, the guys that wrote for Little Wars on the whole were better writers. But that's because they were doing historical research and that type of stuff. They weren't making it up out of their head. There's a real difference there. I think it's a framework that when you're writing fantastical stuff, especially back then, the people writing the role-playing stuff didn't have that framework to build on. So we got some really bad submissions that had brilliant ideas in them. So I just rewrote them. I just typed them all over. Tried to keep the author's voice, and I did a very good job. I'm very proud of that. I wrote the first 6 dragons, 40% of them, because I rewrote a lot of stuff. But I kept it in the author's voice. And here, what we're trying to, with our singular spot in the business right now, we should be able to get enough good people, but I still wouldn't want to go beyond 8 a year, maybe. Maybe we take a break. We hit bi-monthly during the convention season, and then we skip a month or two during the winter, it's that type of thing. It remains to be seen, but there's several magazines that do it that way, and it works for them. So we'll see how it goes. That's way down the road.
Yeah.
I may not even, I hope, but I may not be involved anymore. When we were talking earlier, it was like I got locked in because if I went away, everybody wanted to know why. So I decided to stay because it wasn't any bad blood or anything. So that's kind of how I ended up where I am now as a contributing editor. And Jason and I talk, and James and I talk, and Jim Wampler and I talk. I'm getting more in touch with the other 2 editors. We're working on submission guidelines. Jim's working on art guidelines. As soon as we have those formalized, they will go up and we will start accepting submissions. But as I said earlier, my desk used to be 6 deep all the time. We hope to be able to control that flow a little better this way. And if we see something that looks pretty interesting and is maybe worth following up on, then maybe one of us will start working with that person and maybe we'll help them. If it's an idea we feel is... I always felt that if this person has an idea or makes a point that I think is valid, then I'll help them say it or help them make it. Because I had the hubris to think that if I thought it was important, it probably was. Well, Gary and I were right more often than we were wrong. You can see how you could fall into that.
Definitely true.
It's an easy trap to fall into when you're succeeding.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Nick, do you have any more questions?
Not that I could think of off the top of my head.
Well, I'll be at Total Con. Let me get a free plug in here.
Sure.
Con. And then the first weekend in March is CincyCon, and Goodman Games is coming to CincyCon because Mike is staying at my house while he's here. Mike Curtis. He's going to be running some Dungeon Crawl Classics at CincyCon. And then 2 weeks later, he and I are both at GaryCon. Of course, he'll be going home in the meantime. And then I'm in Texas. And then I don't think I'm doing anything till Gen Con. Unless somebody sends me a ticket and says, come play games with strangers.
Oh, okay. Well, Tim, we've kept you for about close to 2 hours here, so...
It's my pleasure. Anybody knows me knows I love to talk.
So let's wrap up this special insert, and Tim, just stay on the line after the show. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Roll for initiative.